Thinking outside the box is almost like filling a glass of water. The higher you go, the deeper the depth gets, and so does the capacity increase. But no one's talking about what to even do to increase the capacity in the first place. See, we all have had that moment, at least one such moment in our lives, where an insanely creative idea popped out of nowhere in our head, which is something that wouldn't really happen on a normal day. Now this must mean that you were doing something very specific at that moment, which led you to unlocking your creative capacity. So let me ask you a question. What exactly were you doing when you experienced the spike in creative thinking that led you to get the creative idea? Can you remember what were you doing? Most likely you were sitting down thinking about something. You probably didn't have your phone in your hands, neither were you thinking of your phone. You were thinking of something else, something in particular, and very skeptically. This is where it all starts. Your brain starts to zoom out, you realize the bigger picture. You start to notice the patterns, you see things through perspectives you've never seen before. This is when you find extreme similarities between vastly different pieces of work. You feel like it's all coming from people falling in the same category, people with similar mindsets. This is when you realize that 99.99% of people are inside the box, with not just their ideas, but their lifestyle, their philosophy, their perception of different things. They're all functioning in a certain manner. Now some people get stuck at this level, whereas some others manage to fill the glass even more. This is where it gets interesting. At this point, you're probably in a going down self-improvement rabbit hole. You discover dopamine detoxing. In fact, you get pretty moved by this concept. So moved that you do it yourself. Or more like you try doing it, but fail. But you try it again. And this time, you manage to do it. At some point of your day, you sit down and do nothing. Because you're bored and you can't scroll social media after all. And this is when you unknowingly take the biggest step to outsmart 99.99% of people. You start functioning without the influence of the Matrix for the very first time. You form your own thoughts, your own opinions and ideas. This is when you experience how it actually feels to be free of other people's influence, because after all, you're no longer just reading someone else's opinion on Twitter and reshaping it and calling it your own opinion, just because you agree with it. You're now using your own brain to form your real opinions. For the first time, you're actually being yourself, because you realize what most people miss about being yourself, which is that you can't be yourself, you have to become yourself. This is when you get used to this totally new way of thinking. You gradually get to the point in life when you realize thinking outside the box isn't actually the goal. The goal is living outside the box. It's not just a mindset change, it's also a lifestyle change. And it's also not a once and for all achievement. You have to keep doing different things in order to stay outside the box, because at any moment you may fall back inside the box. It's a constant fight, a fight between you and the world trying to make you be like them. And the moment you give in is the moment you fall back into the box. You have to avoid being like people around you. You have to keep going in the opposite direction by actively doing things that separate you from most people. In fact, at some point, you should end up developing a massive fear. The fear of becoming like other people. The fear of falling back into the box. And this fear will be a substantial factor in making you get to an even higher level. All you can think of is not being like other people. You start observing what people around you are doing, how they speak, what they think, how they act. Neither because you like them, nor because you want to be like them, but because you want to make sure that every step that you take in life is different than theirs. All you care about is being a rebel, because after all, if everybody's inside the box, then all you gotta do to be outside the box is be the opposite of what everyone else is. You really start getting toxic about progress. But don't worry just yet, because this toxicity is necessary to reach the highest level acquirable, which, by the way, you're pretty close to. You finally start taking action. This is when you actually start making creative things that make you seem like someone who's living outside the box. And people around you start noticing the sudden change in you. Some dislike it, while some appreciate it. But at the end of the day, you don't even bother caring about whether they like it or not. because either way, their opinions shouldn't influence you, because if they do so, then you're falling back into the box, which you don't want to happen to you, and hence you just keep going regardless of everything. But things escalate pretty quickly when you reach the highest level of creativity. You're hit with a sudden realization. You can't think outside the box, because no matter how hard you try, you're always inside the box. Even if you manage to escape the box you're currently inside of, there's another bigger box that you're inside of, which is inside of another even bigger box. There's an infinite amount of such boxes which contain each and every box you could possibly escape. It's almost like a loop that's been intentionally set up to make sure that it's inescapable. But let's get real now. Does this actually mean that you can't think outside the box? Well, see. Do you notice how I made you watch this entire video without making you feel like that I'm a copycat of some other YouTuber? At any point in this video, did you feel like I was trying to be like someone else, some other bigger YouTuber? I could have easily copied some flashy Mr. Beast edits, but did I? I made the whole video in such a manner that is different from anyone else on this platform. And you, yes you remember me, you'll never forget watching this video because it's just too different. And my distinction is what separates me from other people that you watch. And the reason I'm able to be this way in the first place is because I realized what most people don't realize about thinking outside the box, which is, there aren't infinitely many boxes. In fact, there is no box. It's a free world. All there is a vast collection of things you could do, ideas you could have, and opinions you could voice. But we as humans barely scratch the surface of such an unobservable list of things we could possibly do. And in this innumerable amount of things possible, do you think there's a limitation? There's nothing that stops you from doing unique things. You're not trapped. You're a free bird. You can fly into open sky in any direction you want. There's no limit to your thinking, because there's nothing that's impossible. Even the word itself says impossible. What? Free world? No way I wrote that in the script. Did I just spend 2 weeks making a video that I again come to disagree with?